Welcome back to the Fit Focus Forum, where we take the complexity out of fitness and put the focus back on action. So we give high-achieving professionals, the ones juggling long work weeks, travel, stress, and a full life, the strategies they need to take control of their fitness without sacrificing their careers or their sanity. Now, before we jump into tonight's topic, let's do a quick life update. It's actually been a pretty exciting week. First of all, we hired another employee for the business, which is amazing. The modified macro method continues to grow. And every time we hire somebody, I have two completely opposite emotions at the exact same time. The first one is, holy shit, this is awesome. The second one is, holy shit, now I'm responsible for someone else's livelihood. Entrepreneurship is a fascinating emotional experience, to say the least. It's basically confidence and anxiety sharing a studio apartment together. The other thing I'm excited about this weekend, my husband and I have a friend that's in town for the summer that we haven't seen in a very long time. We're heading to Knockdown Center to see Martin Liu. If you've never been there and you're in New York, definitely check it out. It's one of my favorite venues. It's a huge industrial warehouse. It has an amazing sound system. There's an outdoor area called the Ruins. And downstairs is the basement, which is probably the closest thing America has to a legitimate European techno club. It's dark, it's industrial. My favorite fucking part is there's no cameras. Cameras are ruining dance floors across the world. So many places are starting to take notice of that and eliminate cameras. So I'm super happy that we have somewhere that's doing it here in New York, because that means there's no influencers filming themselves pretending to have fun. Just music and dancing. And if you've ever been there during Horse Meat Disco, well, let's just say some people are doing a lot more cardio than others. And we'll just leave it there. Now, why am I talking about dancing in techno clubs before a nutrition podcast? Because every single time I go out, somebody ends up talking about food. And eventually somebody says something like, I can't eat that, it has too much fat. Or avocados have too many calories. Or my personal favorite, olive oil is healthy, so you can have as much of it as you want. And every single time I hear one of these conversations, I realize how confused people still are about dietary fat. Because fat has one of the worst reputations in nutrition history. And honestly, it didn't deserve most of it. We're still trying to figure out what fats did to you that hurt you. Tonight, we're talking about healthy fats versus unhealthy fats. What fat actually does in your body, which fats support your health, and which fats are worth limiting. Also, we're going to talk about how to stop obsessing over individual ingredients and start looking at the bigger picture. Let's start with a little history lesson. Because if you're around my age, and I'm 46 years old, you probably grew up during one of the strangest nutrition experiments in modern history. The low-fat era. For years, fat was the villain. Everything was low-fat yogurt, low-fat cookies, low-fat ice cream, low-fat crackers, salad dressing, everything, low-fat. The food industry convinced everyone that fat makes you fat. And people bought into it hook, line, and sinker. Like literally, millions and millions of dollars worth of low-fat products were created. And honestly, some of them tasted like punishment. Remember those fat-free cookies? I'm sure they still exist. They taste like somebody photocopied a cookie and put it into a wrapper. There was technically a fucking cookie in there somewhere, but good for you if you could find it. Because something important had gone missing. And here's the funny part. As fat intake dropped, obesity rates went up. Now, obviously, that wasn't entirely because people were eating low-fat products, but here is what happened. When companies removed fat from food, they usually replaced it with sugar or refined carbohydrates or enough artificial ingredients to make a chemistry teacher nervous. So people ended up eating more processed foods, more sugars, more calories, and the entire thing backfired. Now the pendulum has swung in the opposite direction. Suddenly fat is the hero. People are putting butter in coffee. Entire diet built around bacon. God, no one else on earth more than me wishes that type of diet works, because bacon is one of my favorite things on the planet. People are acting like olive oil is also basically a liquid enlightenment, right? Like Buddha should be on the package. And social media influencers making videos that are suggesting a single tablespoon of seed oil will destroy your hormones, destroy your metabolism, and possibly even your marriage and your relationship with your dog as well. The fitness industry loves these type of extremes. Nobody gets views by saying, it depends. Everybody gets views by screaming, this food is killing you, as loud as they possibly can. And that's why nutrition is so confusing. Every few years, the internet needs a new villain. First, it was fat, then carbs, then gluten, then dairy, then artificial sweeteners, then seed oils. At some point, we're probably going to blame oxygen. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of these things are not good if you eat them all the time, but having them occasionally, all of these, it's not going to kill you, right? As long as the rest of your diet is healthy, a few times a week, enjoy the things that have artificial sweeteners. Eat the seed oils, even have the over-processed protein chips. God, why is there protein in everything like chips and cookies? That could be a whole nother podcast. But enjoy your life, right? We want to avoid binge and purge cycles by having things in moderation and not completely cutting them out of our lives. So let's simplify this. Fat is essential. Your body literally cannot function without it. Fat helps produce hormones, including testosterone. Fat supports brain health. Your brain itself is largely made up of fat. Fat helps absorb vitamins A, D, E, and K. Fat provides insulation. It supports cell membranes. It helps regulate hunger. And if you've ever tried a ridiculously low-fat diet, you already know what happens. You become hungry constantly. Everything fucking irritates you. You are hangry. You start fantasizing about peanut butter, and then suddenly your coworker chewing too loudly becomes a legitimate threat. Fat matters. The goal isn't to avoid fat. The goal is understanding which fats should make up most of your diet. Now, broadly speaking, we can break fats into 3 categories. We have unsaturated fats, saturated fats, and trans fats. Let's start with the ones we want most of, which are unsaturated fats. These are generally considered the healthy fats. These include monosaturated and polyunsaturated fats. You'll find them in foods like olive oil, avocados, nuts, seeds, salmon, sardines, walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds. These fats are associated with improved heart health, reduced inflammation, and better metabolic function. Think of them as supportive fats. They work with your physiology instead of against it. And here's something that many people forget. Healthy fats make food enjoyable. Seriously. Think about a salad with no dressing. I always like to say it tastes like a rabbit's asshole. Nobody gets excited about that. It's basically lawn maintenance. Now add some olive oil, maybe some avocado, a few nuts. Suddenly, it's an actual meal with taste. Fat slows down digestion. It stabilizes blood sugar. It helps keep you full longer. And that matters for energy. It matters for appetite. And that absolutely matters for fat loss. Now let's talk about saturated fat, because this is where people get confused. Saturated fats are found primarily in animal products. This is beef, butter, cheese, whole milk, eggs, certain tropical oils. And for decades, saturated fat was blamed as the primary cause of heart disease. Modern research is much more nuanced. Saturated fat is not automatically evil. Moderate amounts can absolutely fit into a healthy diet. Eggs, they're a perfect example. For years, people were fucking terrified of eggs. I can't have eggs with yolks. I have to eat all egg whites. Egg white omelets, I'm sorry guys. You need some fucking yolks in there. Egg whites by themselves, absolutely no taste, and you're just suffering at that point. Fitness magazines at this time acted like eating 2 yolks would immediately clog your arteries and cause you to have a heart attack. Meanwhile, bodybuilders were over there eating 12 eggs a day and somehow surviving. The truth is, context matters. When saturated fat is consumed within a balanced diet built around whole foods, regular exercise, and adequate fiber intake, it is very different from a diet built around processed junked food and excess calories. That is the key. Context, not fear. Now let's move to the category that actually deserves most of its bad reputation. This is trans fats. Trans fats are primarily artificial fats created through industrial processing. Now, historically, they were used to improve texture and extend shelf life. You'll find them in certain packaged baked goods, fried foods, and highly processed snacks. This is the category where the science is pretty clear. Trans fats increase inflammation. They worsen cholesterol profiles, and they increase cardiovascular risk. So if we're looking for a category of fats to minimize as much as possible, this is it. Fortunately, they've become much less common than they were 20 years ago, but they still show up in certain processed foods. Now let's talk about the internet's favorite current obsession, which is seed oils. This one drives me a little nuts. Apparently, we're all supposed to panic about canola oil this week. Listen. I mean it. Listen. The reality is far less dramatic. Many seed oils contain large amounts of omega-6 fatty acids, and in excessive amounts relative to omega-3s, which are your anti-inflammatories, they can contribute to inflammation. But here's what most people miss. The oil itself usually isn't the biggest problem. The foods that contain the oil are. Think about where most people consume large amounts of seed oils. Chips, fast food, frozen pizzas, fried foods, packaged desserts, ultra-processed snacks. When somebody says seed oils are killing us, what they're often describing is an overall diet full of highly processed foods. The problem isn't the teaspoon of canola oil that's used to saute vegetables. The problem is eating like a raccoon behind a fucking convenience store. That's the distinction. The internet loves simple villains, and it will create them constantly. Real nutrition is rarely that simple. Let's bring this back to your goals. Full circle. Most of the men I work with want the same thing. They want to lose body fat. They want to build muscle, and they want to feel confident at the beach, take their shirt off without immediately scanning the crowd for somebody in better shape, or feel like they're being judged, which, listen, most of the time, we're not. But I know that's the first thing that pops into your head when you're not feeling good about the way you look or the way that you feel. And we want to do all of this without turning nutrition into a full-time job. Fat plays a role in all of that. Too little fat can make diets unsustainable. Too much fat can push calories higher than intended because fat contains 9 calories per gram. As a reference, that's more than double what protein and carbohydrates provide, which is 4 calories per gram. So, balance matters. And honestly, the practical solution is pretty simple. Focus most of your fat intake on whole food sources. Olive oil, avocado, nuts, seeds, fatty fish. Allow moderate amounts of saturated fats from foods like eggs, dairy, and quality meats. Minimize trans fats. Minimize highly processed fried foods. And for God's sakes, stop obsessing over individual ingredients. Now, in a month, I'll be getting on a cruise in Barcelona, and I can promise you something. I'm not going to spend the trip interrogating waiters about olive oil. I'm not going to ask whether the chef used avocado oil or canola oil. I'm not going to spend my vacation analyzing every ingredient. I'm in Spain, goddammit. I'm going to enjoy the incredible food, the amazing experience, and I'm going to have a few cocktails and possibly a couple other things, but I'll leave it there. I'm also not going to pretend that 6 pastries and 4 desserts became healthy just because I ate them in Europe. That's the difference. Awareness, not obsession. Nutrition should support your life, not dominate it. Now, before we wrap up today, I want you to think about one thing. When fat shows up in your diet, where's it coming from? Is it mostly from real foods like fish, olive oil, nuts, avocados, eggs, all the stuff we talked about today? Or is it mostly coming from fried, packaged snacks and ultra-processed convenience foods? Because that, my friends, that answer tells you almost everything you need to know. The goal is not perfection. The goal is direction and consistency. Build your diet around real food most of the time. Use convenience foods strategically when life gets chaotic. And remember that healthy eating should make your life better and bigger, not smaller and worse. Now, if you want help building a nutrition strategy that balances calories, protein, carbohydrates, and healthy fats while fitting into your travel schedule, work demand, social life, and real-world lifestyle, that's exactly what we do inside the Modified Macro Method. So I'd like you to comment my turn wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you're on YouTube, do the same. And we'll get you the skinny fat blueprint. All right? We'll send over a link so you can sign up and get that into your inbox as soon as possible. This is going to help you stop guessing and start building a body that performs and looks the way that you want. All right, then we'll continue the conversation and we'll figure out exactly what you need what your goals are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and how you can get there without ruining your life or feeling like all you have going on is your diet and your fitness. Because honestly, guys, nobody wants that. We don't want to enjoy everything. We want to feel good. We want to look good. And we want to do it all in a way that's sustainable. So thanks very much again for joining the Fit Focus Forum. This is, I believe, our 4th podcast. We're going to get better every time. Together, you and I are going to get better every single day. Please share this with someone you think may benefit from this information. Maybe it's somebody who's obsessing over their diet and not allowing themselves to have any fun food. I don't call them cheat meals. I call them fun food. Maybe it's somebody who's not eating any fats. Maybe it's somebody who's not eating carbohydrates, right? Maybe it's somebody that you just care about. All right. So it's been an absolute pleasure. And I promise we're going to talk real soon.